This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
What's up, guys? Episode 56 of Top Rope Nation. Here to talk about the greatest sport known to mankind, professional wrestling. I'm your host, Ryan Drosty, joined by my two co-hosts, Justin Joint, Kyle Ross, here on a Thursday evening, one night before the so-called greatest Royal Rumble in WWE history. We're here to talk about it. By the time you're listening about this, the show has probably already aired, so we're going to center our conversation a little bit more on the controversy surrounding the WWE and their 10-year business agreement with Saudi Arabia and their government itself. But first, I got to get out to Cleveland, Ohio, and see how my guy Kyle Ross is doing. Kyle, what's going on tonight?
I'm doing better than the Browns. I'll tell you that much.
NFL draft going on right now. You're not happy with your picks?
I mean, I could give a fuck less about the Cleveland Browns, quite frankly, pardon my French, but they're not a good team. I mean, a Ponzi scheme masquerading as a professional sports franchise, as I like to tell people.
I did have the draft on in the background, and I did see it scroll across that they've won one game in their last 35. I did not realize it was that bad.
Is that good?
That was pretty shocking to me. I didn't think it was quite to that level.
It takes a lot for my wife to look at a stat and comprehend it, and I'm not this is going to come across as sexist, but whatever. And just be like, "Oh my god, that's really bad." But when she saw that on the TV screen, the face she made was just one of just sheer horror, and that made me chuckle.
I mean, you've got two other franchises there competing for world championships, though, so I think you're all right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, the fact that anyone in this town pays attention to the Browns is mortifying, quite frankly. I mean, there's so many other, and besides, the Indians and Cavs, there's so many other great things in this world to pay attention to, like the great workers of professional wrestling, Jinder Mahal, Drew McIntyre, Big Cass. I mean, there's just so much to talk about.
And the other kind of football, the sport that the entire rest of the world refers to as football, our resident expert, the Tottenham Spurs fan himself, Justin Joint, over there in Waterloo, Iowa. What's going on, Justin?
Not much, man. Ready to talk some wrestling, even though, as far as I'm concerned, it was kind of a ho-hum week.
Yeah, I mean, last week we had a lot to talk about with the Superstar shakeup. A really good conversation on Bruno Sammartino, I thought. So if you guys haven't caught that episode 55 is on the archives on topropenation.com, iTunes, wherever podcasts are found. So go ahead and rate and subscribe. We would appreciate it. But this week, as we prep for the show and we were texting back and forth, there just isn't as much to talk about. That's for sure. I think the biggest topic is just the controversy surrounding the Rumble here in Saudi Arabia.
Well, I mean, the show itself, I think the show is going to be has the potential to be quite good. I mean, they're clearly loading it up. Yeah.
Do you guys feel, I'm just going to start with this, since we were all at WrestleMania, do you guys feel like we kind of had a little bit of our WrestleMania experience taken away because they were kind of booking around this show a couple weeks later?
I don't think so, because this card kind of just seems slapped together in a bit of an exhibition. I mean, there's no build up to really any of these matches. I mean, why do we care about Cena versus Triple H and Undertaker versus Rusev other than just to see the match itself?
Yeah, don't you think Reigns Lesnar though was kind of booked at Mania just based on what they were going to do in Saudi Arabia? I get what you're saying in those matches for sure.
Yeah, no, it's certainly possible in that case, but even if they had gone with Roman Reigns winning at WrestleMania, the crowd ruined that match as it is. So the ending didn't matter.
That's true. That is true. Kyle, what do you think about that point?
Well, I think the two major title matches definitely are the story of Friday afternoon show. I would, of the betting man that I am, I would set the over-under line at 1 for title changes. I think certainly either Styles or Lesnar is losing the title, and possibly both of them. So that would make this a pretty noteworthy show. And, you know, in the case of stuff like Cena and Triple H, yeah, it doesn't mean anything per se in the weekly episodic nature of WWE, but it's a big deal having those two work on that show. And I'm actually looking forward to the Royal Rumble. I thought of this afternoon in the sense that, you know, because the Royal Rumble pay-per-view itself is so ingrained in the road to WrestleMania, you sort of limit your pool of winners every year. And the gimmick where the winner goes on to the main event at WrestleMania can sometimes be viewed as both a blessing and a curse for the match, because you've got a lot of guys that you just know aren't going to win. And here they could just, you know, have whoever win. And yeah, maybe it doesn't matter, but every man for himself, anyone could win this gimmick that was originally kind of conceived when they made this match is sort of back. I'm kind of interested and excited to watch it.
Man, that's an excellent point. And that's why you get paid the big bucks, Kyle. This is one of the few times where you can, at the Royal Rumble going into WrestleMania, you can always kind of narrow it down to like maybe 5 guys have a chance. Whereas this is just completely open, and it's going to be more just for fun. I kind of wish that it was maybe for a title shot or something instead of just a trophy, but it should be a good time.
That was my next point is, are we kind of surprised that they didn't make this for a title shot? I know we just got done with WrestleMania and the Rumble winners getting their title shots. We've got Money in the Bank on the horizon, but I don't know, to get their audience a little more invested in this match other than just some goofy trophy, are we surprised they didn't make it for more? I guess they still could. I mean, they could announce it before the show, but does that surprise you at all, Kyle?
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be, really. The guy who wins can sort of organically get something out of it. You know, you don't need to, like, beat your audience over the head with, this is for something. I mean, you know, idealistically, the guy wins, and it means, I mean, I don't think they're going to have, like, Kurt Hawkins win this thing or something, for God's sake. I mean, you know, it's probably going to be, you know, I could see Daniel Bryan, Braun Strowman, Big Cass, someone like that. And ideally, it would be kind of the kickoff of some sort of push, per se, I guess. And it would mean something.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, they don't really do a good job with the Andre Battle Royal in that regard. But, you know, well, you know, there's 10 million reasons why they're doing this show. We could talk about the controversy or whatever, but, you know, to me, the big thing is the 2 title matches. That's what's going to affect each brand moving forward.
Yeah. I thought, speaking of the title matches, to me, the highlight of television this week was Shinsuke Nakamura, yet again, and the low blows heard around the world. I wanted to ask you guys, right when I heard it, what you guys thought of the new theme music and his whole new presentation, because I thought it was just awesome on Tuesday night. I love the fact that they added the lyrics to the theme song. I like the drums that were added to it. He's got an actual Japanese band performing the music. The storyline reason for it, of course, was that Nakamura got the music because he doesn't want the fans chanting along and singing his theme song, which also just logically makes sense. But I loved it. I thought, man, Nakamura's a guy who 3-4 months ago was not doing well on the main roster. We kind of saw WrestleMania as a make or break time for him, and this heel turn has just invigorated his main roster career. That is for sure. What do you guys think of the new entrance he debuted on Tuesday night?
I loved it. I mean, you kind of covered it all. It had to be done to kind of quiet the crowd, but it works so well for him. And Nakamura's heel turn has been just incredible. It's really breathed new life into his time here in WWE, and I mean, boy, him and Sami Zayn are just two guys that I wouldn't have guessed would be as good of heels as they have been. They're my two favorite things on the show right now.
You're just trying to pick a fight with Kyle now with the Sami Zayn comment. I can hear it coming already.
I thought no, Sammy's heel work was strong this week. I'm not gonna dispute that. And with Nakamura, yeah, look, I'll make it 3 for 3 here. The heel turn was needed. It is great, and I said it last week. It might end up being the most notable thing to come out of WrestleMania 34 when you look back at it.
Oh yeah,
I mean, because the Reigns Lesnar thing was just an exercise in stupidity, and I don't know. I mean, the best match was the Rousey deal, but I don't know necessarily what that means on a weekly. I mean, she won. She's a big star, but she was a big star anyway. I don't mean to shortchange what happened there because I thought, the fact that she solidified herself as a babyface is a mark in her favor. But to me, yeah, I mean, this heel turn has been huge, and I think in order to justify the heel turn, kind of booking 101, you put the title on him at this show. I think he has to win and he should cheat. They should work a style. I think the match itself, which I thought was kind of a dud at Mania. I think this time around it'll benefit by having a clear face heel dynamic, and I would absolutely have Nakamura cheat to win.
That was actually my next point, is that I feel almost like heading into the show, and anyone listening has probably already seen the match result by now, but I almost feel heading in like Nakamura almost has to win, just as hot as the character's been since the heel turn. And so it feels like there's a very good chance you're going to have 2 new world champions coming out of this show, because again, you all know the result by now probably, but man, if Roman Reigns does not win this match, my God, yet again comes up short. What's the point anymore? We said that after WrestleMania, but man, if he doesn't win here too. And
what do you do with him is the question.
Yeah, I don't know where he goes if he loses to Lesnar yet again. No idea. I mean, it's almost one of those things where you think he's got to take a couple months off and just like get out of view if he loses. So I haven't heard anything that he's dealing with any like injuries or anything like that. But that, to me, that's like the only justification for him losing again is to get some time off. Because how do you have him lose twice to Brock Lesnar in the matter of a few weeks and then just come out on Raw? I don't know. I don't see it.
And that's not really in their kind of DNA for WWE, just to like have a guy who's healthy just take time off for storyline purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe a couple weeks, but they don't leave guy, I mean, even, stuff like Wyatt. I mean, how long was Wyatt off TV before he came back and did the current gimmick? A couple weeks. Dolph Ziggler, he wanted to actually be, he it's really funny. He went to the creative team and was like, keep me off TV for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stale. I'm not doing anything. And they kind of like brought him back after, again, like a month, a few weeks. So I don't see them doing that. I'm actually more confident in that said, I'm still more confident in Nakamura winning the title than Reigns, believe it or not.
Yeah, that actually, I might say that too, to be honest with you. It's funny you mentioned that about guys not really going away for very long for storyline purposes, because as luck would have it, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I was in my car the other day, and up on my playlist comes Cult of Personality. And I have not heard that song in a long time. And I started thinking about CM Punk, and I thought back to the time when he debuted that song. I think he used it in Ring of Honor, but when he debuted it on Raw, when he came back after beating John Cena and then walking away, and it was like such a cool moment when him and Cena went face to face. Wasn't that only like a week later?
2.
It was 2 weeks?
Yes.
But case in point, like he was only gone 2 weeks, and that would have been even more cool if he had been gone for a couple of months. But
yes, and if there was ever a storyline to keep a guy off TV for a while, to make the storyline better, it was that. And they didn't. I think in hindsight, not even necessarily in hindsight, I think at the time when they did that, everyone was like, ooh, too soon.
Yeah. It was a cool moment, but man, yeah, it was a lot sooner than everyone thought. So it's funny you mentioned that, because I was just thinking about that earlier today.
Hey,
go ahead.
Since we're kind of on the subject of Nakamura's heel work and kind of Sami Zayn's too. I feel like I have to mention somebody who I have never really been a fan of, who cut a really good promo on SmackDown. Big Cass, his reasoning for turning on Daniel Bryan was great. And the other reason I loved it is that they're not rushing the Miz and Daniel Bryan stuff. Is that it's really going to be able to let that feud breathe and slow burn a little bit. All of that was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was very much impressed by Cass on Tuesday night. I wrote about that a little bit on Pop Culture. I just thought a lot of people crapped on the fact that Bryan was going to feud with Cass, coming out of SmackDown last week. It seemed like the logical feud based on what Cass had done. And I thought he wasn't like bad on the mic before, but he was really good Tuesday, I thought. And it felt to me like this is a guy who just like talked in the mirror the 9 months he was off just practicing his promos. And it showed because I liked it and I was sold on seeing these guys feud. Kyle, what'd you think?
He came across like a star. There's no doubt about it. And if you remember, I know this name has been whitewashed from history, but when he turned on Enzo way back when, that promo was really good too, if you go back and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he came. And the whole thing with, people complaining that Bryan's first feud is Cass, who do you want him to work with? Like this idea that he's just going to come in and do dream matches, is very short-sighted, in my opinion. We just saw them attempt that with Styles and Nakamura. Now, granted, they had in their back pocket they were going to turn Nakamura heel, but, based on the crowd reaction, I mean, if you're WWE creative and people aren't going to want to hear this, you're probably lukewarm on doing that kind of concept. And I was telling a buddy this, like last week or so, the money with Daniel Bryan is not him working, AJ Styles in a babyface versus babyface match where people, start chanting, "This is awesome," before it even starts. It's him working against people the crowd doesn't like and overcoming those odds. That's what it's all about, man. Rewatch WrestleMania 30, for Christ's sake.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's true. His entire history of success in WWE was built upon that overcoming the odds thing. And it wouldn't make much sense for him to just do dream matches, just jumping around. There's no investment. There's no emotional attachment to those kinds of matches if you don't build them up. So
No. And, Styles Nakamura had every reason to be this huge dream match, and it wasn't. So, no, I'm fine. And I'll be honest, people are going to be real salty, but I think Big Cass should win at Backlash.
Yeah, Bryan got
I wouldn't
the
be
win.
opposed at that. I think they need to hold off the Bryan Miz as long as possible, and if that means 2-month feud with Cass, let's do it.
Well, what's interesting? I think they're going to hook Miz and Big Cass up, and it's going to be like, I can see this at least, where the reveal is that Cass did do what he did at the behest of Miz, and Bryan gets his heat back by beating Miz eventually down the line. I think that's kind of a logical way for that story to go, where he loses the Cass, and then finally Miz maybe Miz even interferes in that match at Backlash.
Yeah,
and then Bryan can recede him by interfering in Miz's match at Backlash, and then eventually you build the Bryan versus Miz, the big one-on-one encounter, and Bryan wins that.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially with the way Miz has been saying and kind of acting as a quote unquote face, as a good guy ever since he had Monroe Sky. He's a good guy now.
Yes.
He used that pretty good on Tuesday night, where he talked about how what did he say, when he looked into his daughter's eyes, he knew that he couldn't be like a bad guy anymore, and he wondered if Daniel was as good of a father as he was, or something like that. That was pretty good.
How great will it be if Bryan does, in fact, go to hit him in the face eventually, and Miz pulls his daughter in front of him?
Oh, my God.
I would do it. I'm a
Jesus.
sick bird, though, man. I'm a sick bird. Hey, I'll go upstairs and I'll tell Mazzy to take the bump, man. I'll do anything.
Oh, my God. This show has gone off the rails completely at this point. Oh, my God.
Speaking of off the rails, did you see that dinner in Saudi Arabia tonight that the WWE's having?
Oh,
My God.
I did not. What happened?
Oh, you didn't see the video of Vince, Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Triple H, who didn't look like he was really particularly enjoying the standard Saudi fare on his plate, and then Roman Reigns and
Braun
Braun.
Strowman.
Yeah, we're all having dinner together at this table. It was incredible the way it was panned because Vince was near Lesnar, Taker, and Angle, and then you had some Saudi representative. I don't even know who that was. And then on the other side of the table, you had Triple H, Braun, and Roman. It was just incredible stuff.
You know what's missing there? No women.
Well, yeah.
So let's get right into that. That's been the talk this week is the controversy. We wanted to hit on that. Clearly, the 10-year deal with the Saudi Arabian government is all about money for the WWE. They can play it off as, well, you can't make changes overnight to their social policy and whatever, but they're getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars by the government for this show. And it is a bit awkward. A lot of fans are kind of up in arms about the fact that the WWE would work with a country that has such a terrible social rights policy, not just with women, but of gay people as well. Being gay in Saudi Arabia is punishable by death in 2018. So we kind of hit on this a little bit last week, but we didn't talk about it too much. I know why they're going there, but I also feel like there's a lot of countries that they could go to and make a lot of money. And I just feel a little dirty about this show. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know where you're at on it, Kyle.
Okay, so everything you said is true. And not to turn this into TRP Frontline, but I have watched both parts of Saudi Arabia versus Iran, and there are a lot of issues with Saudi Arabia. I could talk about it. Our alliance with them through the years has not been smart geopolitically. There's the deal in Yemen, which is not good. But look, everyone has a right. You know, if you're upset by this, you absolutely have a right to. And if you don't want to watch, I'm not going to, you know, the idea, you have to watch, you have to respect what the WWE is doing here. No. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But, and this sounds terrible, for me, look, professional wrestling, I've seen a lot in watching it through 30 years, okay? Racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia. They exploited a war, okay, as the main angle for a WrestleMania once.
They keep pushing Roman Reigns.
Okay, now come on. They keep thinking Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn should be lead heels on a brand. I digress. Okay. You know, they had that Vince McMahon making Trish take her clothes off deal on Raw one time. You know, comparing these things is just a fruitless exercise. Not good, but like I guess I made peace long ago that this is not the most progressive industry. Believe it or not, it is better than it was now. But look, if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. I'm not going to fault you, but you know, I'm going to watch it. Just, you know, mainly because, I mean, I do a podcast. I think it would be odd if I didn't. I mean, what are we going to talk about? Yes, I heard the show was good, but, you know, I'm taking a stand on it. So I'm just going to sit here and not say anything for an hour. So I don't know. I mean, yes, it's not good. And Saudi Arabia is terrible. You know, I mean, for God's sake, look up the people who flew planes into the buildings on 9/11. Where were most of them from? Okay, look that up, sports fans. It's just, I mean, look, there's 10 million reasons why they're doing this show. And if you don't like it, then don't watch.
I thought it was 40 million reasons.
I don't know. I don't know that the number has been made public yet, has it? I think we'll probably have to wait till for their next conference call.
I think it's August. I think we have to wait to the official number, but yeah.
Their next business release, it should be out.
Well, it was a 10-year deal, pardon me. That's where I got the number 10 from, yeah.
Yeah. I get what you're saying about the distasteful storylines and pushing the numbers on sexism and homophobia and racism and stuff through the years. But isn't the difference that in those circumstances you're talking about like scripted storylines and, you know, they were doing it for entertainment. It's, yes, distasteful for sure. But here we're talking about working with like a government regime that has done real life things.
Well, I mean, again, going back to WrestleMania 7, I mean, there was a real life war they exploited. I mean, people died.
Well, yeah, but again, they were doing it for entertainment purposes. That was still going on, but they weren't working like I would think the comparison there would be they were promoting a show with Saddam Hussein in 1991.
Okay, that's
well, wouldn't that be a more direct? Wouldn't that be a more direct comparison though? Because again, it's a distasteful storyline, but there's nothing like real happening from that. There was a war happening, but that was that was
people really died. I mean,
that was outside of WWE though. This is WWE themselves working with a government that commits human atrocities.
The idea, I will say this: the idea that if this turns into an infomercial for Saudi Arabia, that's bad. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, that's bad. Yeah. But I actually, I don't know. Like, to me, I've seen it all, and the whole. I actually do think it's kind of similar to WrestleMania 7. I mean, like I get it was a storyline, and you know Pritchard talks about that all the time with the podcast. But I thought, I mean, it was foul, man. I mean, a lot of people were turned off by that at the time.
But they weren't working with Iraq, though. To me, that's the difference. They weren't working with Iraq. Here they're working with Saudi Arabia, like directly. They're getting paid by Saudi Arabia. They're not allowed to have their women performers on the show because of Saudi Arabia. Women in Saudi Arabia can only go to the show if they are accompanied by a man.
Yes. No, it's a bad call. Like, look, I encourage anyone to watch Frontline. Like I said, our alliance with the United States alliance with them has been a disaster geopolitically.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dispute that. I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, at the end of the day, it's not great. I mean, I don't know which one. I mean, yeah, it's not great, but I'm gonna. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm a lousy person. I'm gonna watch.
I think if you come from a certain, I don't know. I don't want to say political background or social economical background or whatever it be, that you have to kind of you kind of gave up drawing a line in the sand if your love of pro wrestling and the WWE is greater than maybe some of your own.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. What you're saying is exactly like I gave up with the idea. Like, I should take that back. Okay, there is one thing in the history of pro wrestling that caused me to stop watching for significant, and that was the Chris Benoit murder-suicide. I did make it a point. And again, I don't like doing this thing because it's all personal. You know, I don't want to start like comparing, you know, what's worse, you know, exploiting a war, Saudi Arabia, Chris Benoit. Like, it's all personal taste. You know, why I decided to stop watching because of Chris Benoit and why I will watch Friday afternoon, I don't know. I can't rectify that, I guess, for you.
Yeah.
All I know is I'm watching Friday. I stopped watching WWE in 2007. To each his own with this stuff. But, you know, kind of piggybacking off what I think Justin was going to say, look, I kind of am past drawing lines in the sand with this company.
Yeah, and that's just the thing is you just kind of have to reconcile your fandom and your desire to watch the product with, you know, maybe, I don't know if it's moral beliefs or whatnot, but like real quick with the Chris Benoit thing, I mean, that really wasn't, that was you know, wrestling is a little bit more messed up than we thought. I don't know how much of that is really on WWE. This is obviously WWE, you know, taking money or having an agreement with a government with a pretty shady history. To play devil's advocate on the other side, I just wanted to get this out there. It's like, in order to maybe make a change or to start making a change, maybe this is what they have to do. It's like, who knows if maybe 10 years from now,
yes,
they're doing another, greatest WrestleMania and there's, women on the card. You have to start with somewhere with this kind of thing.
And that was the point Triple H tried to make. And I know some people jumped on him for, political speak, but there is something there. I mean, it's a multi-year agreement. And if they can do that, then we're going to look back at this. And I guess we're going to, is Saudi Arabia politically going to get out of the dark ages as a result of WWE? I don't believe that for a second. But, if WWE may be looking at it like, hey, we've got a chance to maybe run women and will look good coming out of this. I mean, that may be their end game with this whole situation. And when people are like, why did they take this money? That may be your answer.
What a babyface turn Saudi Arabia could have here.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any intentions of changing anything, to be honest with you. They have this whole like Vision 2030 program going on where they're doing more with like athletics and stuff, but their actual like social policy has not really been getting better. I think a lot of pundits think it's just kind of a distraction. I don't know how much WWE.
Oh, the whole seating thing. Yeah, the whole seating thing with the families, how they're are going to be seated lower so they're on TV. Is clearly a whole, oh, look, women are in the crowd. Women.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that is. There's no denying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm looking this up right now because David Bixenspan had a really good article on Deadspin about this whole controversy this week. And he talked about, I'm not familiar enough with Vision 30, I just kind of read through it a little bit before the show. He writes on Deadspin, quote, he says, while Vision 2030 is being lauded as a modern solution to the monarchy's heavy reliance on oil, it does not involve significant social reform. Instead, it has provided the regime with a strategic way to distract international attention away from the wide-scale human rights abuses that the country continues to commit. It talks about how the Crown Prince's heavy investment in sports comes on the heels of the Saudis' brutal campaign in Yemen, which is a war that displaced over 3 million people and has created one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world.
It's bad. That's real bad, that situation over there.
The latest example saw a Saudi-led military coalition conduct an airstrike on a wedding on Sunday that killed more than 20 people. So,
the other side for that record isn't good either. The issue, not to make this TRP Frontline, but
maybe we should. Maybe it'd be more entertaining.
Look, I don't want to take our listeners who have tuned in to hear about the first week of the Superstar shakeup. I don't want to take them back 60 years in time and start breaking down when we installed the Shah and overthrew a democratically elected leader in Iran, and basically it's been down the shitter ever since for us in the Middle East.
Yeah,
but that's basically what I said is true. And, the whole thing with Iran, when we were at odds with Iran and and that made us sort of side with the Saudis out of, what's that phrase about strange bedfellows or political bedfellows?
Mm-hmm.
That was not wise in retrospect.
Right.
Because, it's something that the whole Saudi Arabia-Iran conflict is something that, quite frankly, we should be looking to resolve, not take sides.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting topic. I knew that when we brought this up, we'd have some debate on it, and I can see it from a lot of different perspectives. I find it hard to think of a good correlation in company history that compares to having an actual business relationship with a foreign government. Like, they're getting paid by the foreign government with such a terrible human rights track record. And it kind of spitting in the face of everything the promotion has been pushing for the last several years when it comes to inclusion. I mean, Jesus, look at WrestleMania, what Finn Balor did with the rainbow and everything.
That ain't going to happen on Friday afternoon. I'll tell you that much, baby. Otherwise, Finn Balor's going to get his ass stoned to death before he gets to the ring.
So that was just like 3 weeks ago, though. And, we just had the Empowered Women WWE 24 episode, which is very good, by the way. But you can see why everyone looks at this with kind of a an uncomfortable look on their face, because to me, yeah, we can talk about storylines that were distasteful and doesn't make them any better, but again, to me, that's kind of a false equivalency, because we're talking here about actually working with and taking money from the foreign government in a business relationship. And I can't really think of any time in the history of the WWE they've done something like that. We're not just talking storyline.
When I said that stuff, it was kind of like more along the lines of what Justin was saying, is like, there's been plenty of times in the last 30 years watching WWE where I easily could have drawn a line in the sand. Like, all that stuff they did, like, if it wasn't wrestling, I wouldn't watch something like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's only because I love wrestling that I put up with a lot of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, again, if you go through the history of this company, there's a lot of bad shit where you could easily draw a line in the sand. And with the exception of one time with Chris Benoit in 2007, and I don't know, I can't really remember when I started kind of getting back into it or why. But, I just, I've kind of just been like, all right, whatever, this is bad, I'm going to keep watching.
Justin, did you have anything happen to you during your time as a wrestling fan like that, where like a singular event made you tune out deliberately?
No, it was always very gradual or something else taking my attention away. I think I've always kind of come in spurts. Like it was after WrestleMania 8. I kind of dropped out for a while, got back in around WrestleMania 12, kind of dropped out again around WrestleMania 21, I want to say. Kind of started getting back in around 25, 27. I guess I'm good at separating the show from the company, especially, in the past year and a half. Some of my political beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. That's a great point. I mean, we don't make any secret on this show how we feel about the President of the United States, and Vince McMahon's wife is in the cabinet of that president and very clearly voted for Donald Trump. That, again, is something where I guess I'm just a shameless individual. Shame on me. I easily could have drawn a line in the sand. And part of me was like, yeah, this is kind of shitty. Mm-hmm. But I didn't, so I don't know. I guess shame on me. I mean, I could be a better person, but I'm not. I guess I am not the man to create social change in professional wrestling.
I guess I always think about how, like, I've heard people talking about, sometimes it's better just to not meet your heroes because you realize they're actual people with flaws. It's like separating the artist from the man and all that kind of stuff. It's just I guess I'm good at that, separating the art from the artist.
It's funny you mention that, Justin, because I've got this NFL draft in the background, and I was like talking to my buddy the other night who was like, I don't like this Baker Mayfield. He seems like a douchebag. And I'm like, the last thing I care about with professional athletes is like who they are. I mean, obviously, okay, there are some lines where if someone murders someone, if there's rape, a sexual assault, okay, then that affects how I view them. But like these pro athletes or actors or musicians, if they're like quote unquote an asshole in real life, I really could care less because I'm not going to interact with them ever on a personal level. I'm sure a lot of the bands I've liked through history, the people aren't great people. And if I hung out with them, I might think differently about them, and it would affect whether or not I like their music. Or, with sports, to me, I don't care if somebody's like a shitty tipper. If you could throw the rock, man, be my quarterback.
Is that a Scottie Pippen reference?
No, but he was a shitty tipper. No tipping Pippin.
No tipping Pippin. I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
I was just trying to think of something like banal that would that we could all just be like, yeah, it is kind of a dick thing, but it's not like huge. For the record, I was thinking about it with Benoit. Actually, this is kind of like the reason that affected me, I think, more is because I liked Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
And I felt a sense of guilt about that, where it's like, okay, here's a guy I rooted for. I mean, WrestleMania 20, I mean, when he won the title, is probably on my very short list of times I've been most excited watching professional wrestling.
Oh man, I hear you totally. When that match happened, that's like one of the few times in pro wrestling I had tears in my eyes watching it.
Like, I mean, I remember chopping my roommate for like in the club, just like hard, like being like, he's got it, come on, like, because at the time, stupid me, I'm like, God, Triple H is gonna find a way to come out on top of this, but and when it happened, I'm like, I like this guy, and my God, like, what a fucking horrible thing that's just happened here. It's like, what do I know? And that kind of caused me, I think it was that caused me to peace out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I mean, with Saudi Arabia, I look at it like, and I think it speaks volumes about people in general, well, it's a shitty country, but WWE's getting paid, and,
mm-hmm.
I'll watch because the product that they're putting out has the chance to be good. And I'm like, well, I guess I can look past this. But like I said at the top, if you're listening and aren't watching this show because you think this is foul, I do not fault you one iota. I don't. It's your prerogative. People, I mean, you can watch something or not watch something, for whatever reason you want. I mean, like the NFL. Okay, if you don't like the NFL anymore because people were protesting the national anthem, I think you're dumb. But get on with your bad self.
That's funny that you brought that up, because I think I've watched a handful of NFL games in the past 3 years, and I used to be the biggest NFL fan. For me, I started getting a little uncomfortable with the concussion stuff, and honestly, I just kind of got a little bored with the sport. So it's, I mean, I don't know. You just got to let people watch what they watch. You just be aware at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone looks at this business deal and is like, oh, this is completely fine. Like, I think, most people are admitting, this is, kind of, there's kind of, it's kind of a, I don't want to say dirty business deal, but there, it feels a little dirty, certainly, doing it. But, I think at the end of the day, people want to be entertained and they like wrestling, and, people are going to be willing to look past it. And I don't fault people either way. I really don't. I really don't.
In Devil's Advocate, WWE's making this money and they're paying it to guys like Sami Zayn, who has Sami for Syria, and guys like Finn Balor, who apparently, from all accounts, was the one who was pushing that Balor Club for everybody for the LGBT community. So, I mean, there's good people that are in this company.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Isn't there some kind of rumor out there? Obviously, has not been confirmed yet because we don't even know the situation with the financials. That I saw it. I can't remember where I saw this. That perhaps the WWE was forcing like the women to get a cut of the payday, even though they're not on the show.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah, so that hasn't been confirmed, but that would be a good thing if they did something.
The rumor was, well, that they did not want the women publicly commenting on the show, and B, were going to be compensated despite not working the show. Now, again, there's a question of integrity there that people. It's like, okay, if you're a women's wrestler in this company and you're upset by this, but you're basically just going to take a payoff and not say anything, again, that's a personal decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
If a woman wanted to basically torpedo her career they could, and the fallout, my God, would that be one hell of a show? But it's within their rights.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might be more comfortable with the show, though, if, like, there was this idea that WWE works this big business relationship with Saudi Arabia. They don't allow any women on the show, but WWE still got something in, like, all right, you're not going to let our women on the show, but you're still going to pay them, kind of thing.
Well,
that would optically look better, at least a little bit.
I don't know if they can necessarily structure, like, I mean, I'm assuming the WWE is getting a lump sum, and it's up on them how they divvy the payouts. Like, I don't think Saudi Arabia is going to, for instance, hand deliver Alexa Bliss a check. I don't think that
would
at all.
Be great
I think,
television.
Well, yes, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It would be a moment of bliss, you could say.
Oh boy, yes, PSA again. That PSA was great on Raw.
What a professional wrestler, that Alexa Bliss.
Can I say something that's going to get me shit? It's not related to Saudi. I am not, like, in a wrestling sense, like, steamed that there's no women's matches on the show.
Oh God, here we go.
I just think it makes, like, to me, what they could have done, to be honest, they could have done a women's only pay-per-view. They could have made Backlash like almost a women's only pay-per-view. I just like Unique. Like, I mean, it sucks for them, but again, you know me, I always hype Unique, and this is a shitty way to be unique, but you can let the programs. I don't think it necessarily makes WWE, like, storyline wise, any worse that they can't have those matches. I mean, it's shitty why they can't do them, but I don't know. I just think in terms of a uniqueness, there's an opportunity. They could have done something. They're not going to, but they could have done something unique in spite of this with the women's division.
Oh boy, that shirt I saw Kyle wearing in New Orleans is making a lot more sense. Men rule, women drool.
Oh no! I just think
just kidding, folks.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess, like,
no, I agree. Like, if they had done an all women show for Backlash, that would have been a nice little, at least, like, nod.
Let me ask you this question, okay? If this show was in Atlanta, Georgia, okay, if they had a major show in Atlanta, Georgia, and there were no women's matches, would you be pissed?
No, but I think there would be people up in arms about it, because I do recall. I think it was an edition of Raw one time, and we had gotten to, like, the last hour of the show, and there hadn't been a single woman on the show yet, and people were, like, up in arms on Twitter.
There would be people pissed. There would be people pissed. Yeah, I don't know. I just think, whatever. I think it's a unique look. It's shitty the way that it is a unique show, but it is unique.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is definitely being pushed as a WrestleMania level show. That's for sure. We're getting rematches from WrestleMania. So,
and look, the fact of the matter is that the women are all over this company. I mean, they just main evented Raw. I mean, it is, again, it could be faint praise, but women's wrestling has never been presented in a better light, in WWE at least, than it has been in 2018. Now, that may be what makes the whole Saudi Arabia deal so maddening to some.
I think it is. I think that is the weird paradox here.
But, but by the way, if Johnny New Japan out there, where are your women's matches?
I was just gonna. I have been thinking about that in my head for about the last 5 minutes, waiting to work that in, Kyle, because I was thinking about. Well, first of all, what Justin just said about the shirt you were wearing in New Orleans, and I was gonna say you should have been wearing your Top Rope Nation Johnny New Japan 6 Stars shirt, available at shop.spreadshirt.com/Top Rope Nation. You can pick that up. Kyle, do you realize we have 2 T-shirts based off of your quotes now? We've got the Johnny New Japan. We've got the grab a hold, tell a story.
Hey, I invented the catchphrase, man.
But I was also
who knows? Who knows?
Ahead.
I mean, somebody may make a shirt about me, calling me sexist of the year or something like that. The Wrestling Observer News. I don't know. Like, I guess like it's shitty, but like I guess to me, it doesn't offend me when somebody or no matter who it is isn't on a show.
You were talking a minute ago, Kyle, about conservative versus liberal and how most of us feel on this show. If we watch professional wrestling based on if the companies agree with us politically, you would probably have nowhere to go other than New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kyle, because you could go to Ring of Honor, who's owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. We know about them.
Yeah, that's another thing.
So you have to turn them off.
Yeah, that's another thing. Sinclair Broadcasting, freaking
the epitome of fake news, right? Like trying to slant the entire broadcast industry in the United States to
they
the
freaking hold
conservative
their
side.
local newscasters at gunpoint and make them, read from Mein Kampf or whatever they do over there.
So we can't. If we like professional wrestling, there are some things that we just have to put up with, and that we might not agree with everything they do or hardly anything they do politically. But I guess that comes with the territory.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a true legit moral compass, I wouldn't watch pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of offensive things in professional wrestling. Always has been. You mentioned the president a second ago, and let me transition to this because we talked. We're not going to talk about him, but a sighting I had of him. So,
by the way, I saw a guy who I shit you not tonight in this restaurant my wife and I went to, who had the Donald Trump haircut, and I was whispering to my wife, I'm like, he had, and truthfully, our suburb that we moved to here in the last year skews a little conservative. I believe Trump did win it in 2016. But I was whispering, I'm like, he had to get that as an homage. There is no effing way that you can walk around with a haircut like that.
So did he only have like hair on one side of his head and it was combed over too?
It was just like that shitty blonde dye job with that awful comb back, and it was just like it just totally looked like Trump. It was actually a worse haircut, but it looked just like it. I'm like, what is this guy doing?
Was he wearing a Kanye West shirt?
Oh, Jesus Christ. There's another guy you don't want to get me started. Who else can we start shooting on?
God, I was trying to segue to Bruno Sammartino, and you guys are just losing it here.
now there's a man who did take a principled stand.
Well, this is why I'm going to Bruno, because how surreal was it if you've seen the 60-minute show they put together on the WWE Network on Sammartino? It's very good. But when they show his Hall of Fame induction, it's just so crazy to see it. And there's Vince and Bruno at the front of the stage at MSG, hand in hand, and right behind them is the now president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Yes, I saw that. It's so funny that they can't even make a big... Meltzer wrote about this in the New Observer. I think it was in regards to Bobby Lashley. Lashley was involved, in one of the big money angles of all time, and WWE can't mention it because they don't want to offend a large portion of the fan base.
Because the president of the United States is so deeply unpopular.
Yes.
And
he can't take a stunner.
But he can tackle Vince McMahon and beat the hell out of him at ringside. So there's that. What'd you guys think of that Bruno show, by the way? Because I just finally saw that the other day. Yesterday, actually, I watched it. You guys both seen it?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Some of that footage was... Wow, I mean of the Ivan Koloff title change, I was in awe of seeing that.
That was crazy because it looked like a handheld or something almost, but like from the 1960s. Crazy. You seen it, Justin?
No, I haven't. I was hoping to maybe watch it tonight, but I don't know. Kyle seems pretty hot right now, so
that's the other. We could make that a T-shirt. I'm hot.
Yeah.
It's the other.
Speaking of horrible people, Ray Lewis was just shown on my television.
Oh my God! So then you can't watch the NFL because Ray Lewis is involved with the league still. So there's always something to be offended about, no matter your leanings in every industry. I think that is a fair point. So, Justin, definitely check out the Bruno Sammartino doc. It's pretty good. You'll learn a lot because I know you, like me, we learned a lot from Kyle, I think, on last week's broadcast, talking about Bruno. And, man, I had a new admiration for him after watching it. It's a pretty powerful documentary.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff, that World War II stuff, holy God in heaven.
Hiding from the Nazis, his mother going up that big, like, mountain or hill and hiding is, really good stories, very interesting. What a life. So, all right, anything else you guys want to hit on before we hit the road here tonight?
I love women.
This show's going to do the most downloads we've ever done because someone's going to hear it. So you got to hear this guy on this show and his anti-woman stance.
I wasn't an anti-woman stance. I guess you're
going to go put your No Ma'am shirt on from Al Bundy and hit the hay.
It's not the end that the means is far more upsetting than the end to me.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Do we want to do picks? Probably not even worth doing picks, just because by the time people hear this, they're going to know the match results.
I mean, I think the tag title matches are no brainers. Bludgeons and Bray and Matt win those.
I would say the only interesting ones are the Intercontinental and U.S. title. Do they switch Raw and SmackDown?
Yeah, and that's based solely not on the individual, but the brand. Either they're both going to switch or neither will switch brands. Right. I mean, I guess they could switch the Intercontinental within the brand. There is that possibility. Balor could win the ladder match. I know two people would be very excited about that, and the belt would stay on Raw.
Too sweet.
Yeah.
Too sweet.
But why is he always smiling at nothing?
I don't like that either. He's got to stop doing that.
That was the honest goddamn thing. You had your boys Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel in the back, and then the camera turns to Finn Balor just smiling at nothing. He wasn't looking at them. He was smiling into space.
Yeah. I think Justin talked about that weeks ago on the podcast, the quote shit-eating grin.
Yeah, he loves smiling to nothing, man.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah, he's got to knock that off. So, well, I don't have anything else if you guys don't. Other than that, I agree. Hey, why not just switch all the mid-card titles to SmackDown? It's the only show worth watching these days anyways.
I don't agree with that narrative. I thought Raw was good this week. Jinder Mahal 2 for 2 with TV matches since coming over to the brand. My God, is this guy an unbelievable worker. And Drew McIntyre's a guy we need to start talking about more on this show.
I got to get him away from Dolph Ziggler, though.
The way that was presented, though, it was presented in a way where it was so funny. Dolph cut this promo where I got a guy watching my back now after all these years. And, McIntyre cut a promo, totally ignoring Dolph was even there. So, he was very much presented as, the future breakout star of that entity, as he should be.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have hung on long enough and you are still here with us after our back and forth over Saudi Arabia, I do want to say before we close the show this week that we have relaunched the Top Rope Nation Patreon page, and I do have a goal for this. If we get some support on Patreon again, you can find it at patreon.com/topropenation. If you like the show and you want to donate $1 a month or $5 a month or $10, whatever you want to throw our way, just showing us how much you appreciate the show. And by the way, there are different tiers. So, based on what you give, you can get a free t-shirt, you can get other perks. If we get enough support on Patreon, I haven't thought of a number yet, but if you guys show us you appreciate the show, you like what we're doing, maybe we could bring back the Top Rope Nation webcasts, which we haven't done since last summer. If you're a longtime listener,
this week would have been a doozy, wouldn't it?
If you're a longtime listener or viewer of the show, we used to live stream video all of our shows on YouTube in addition to the audio only versions. And I got to say, the video production, it was pretty slick, looked pretty professional. You can still view them on YouTube. But, it is extra work. It takes extra time. It's extra time for us away from our families. So after we came back from our 6-month hiatus, I kind of put that on the rocks and we haven't been doing it. We've just been doing audio. But, if you guys send us a message that you like what we're doing, I think we could bring it back. And you can start seeing Kyle weekly in his Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert sunglasses. Who wouldn't want to see that? My God.
And I'll tell you what, if you donate, I'll match it, and I'll donate it to a women's. I feel terrible about what I said earlier. I love women. I can't get enough of them.
Oh, we know you love women, Kyle.
Yes, make the whole Backlash pay-per-view nothing but women.
Here we go. So check it out, guys. Patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. Also, we do have t-shirts and merch. That's on Spreadshirt. It's shop.spreadshirt.com/Top Rope Nation. We also have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, which you can check out. And, of course, subscribe to the show on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star rating. Check out topropenation.com. And Kyle, Justin, and myself will be back with you next week for episode 57. Have a great weekend.
Love you, women.